This is Hidden in History, where shadows still speak. Tonight, we descend into the underworld of American democracy, a story written not in noble speeches or shining ideals, but in smoke-filled taverns, backroom deals, and ballot boxes stuffed with lies. This is the tale of Tammany Hall, the most notorious political machine in American history, a machine that promised survival to the desperate, and in return seized power for decades. But Tammany's story is not simple. It is a story of immigrants who found both hope and chains, of corruption wrapped in compassion, of a city learning how easily freedom can be sold. Stay until the end, because the whispers of Tammany still echo in politics today. And don't forget, subscribe to Hidden in History, where shadows still speak. The year is 1789. America is young, uncertain, and already restless. In New York, a new political society forms, the Society of St. Tammany, named after a Native American chief. At first, it is just a fraternity, a gathering of men who celebrate liberty with parades and feasts. But the city around them is changing. By the 1820s and 1830s, waves of immigrants pour through New York Harbor. Irish families fleeing famine, Germans escaping failed revolutions. Later, Italians, Jews, Poles, and countless others, all chasing the dream of a better life. Instead, many find cramped tenements, disease, hunger, and work that breaks their bodies for pennies. Into this struggle steps Tammany Hall. Unlike the distant federal government, Tammany is right there, in the streets, in the neighborhoods. They know who needs bread. They know which father has been laid off, which mother can't pay rent, which child needs medicine, and they act. Ward bosses deliver coal in winter, food baskets at Christmas, jobs at the docks. They rescue men from jail, pay hospital bills, arrange funerals. But nothing comes free. In return, the people owe loyalty, owe votes, owe silence. This was not charity. This was the currency of power. To understand Tammany's genius, we must understand the neighborhood boss. He is part politician, part protector, part predator. He walks the crowded streets of Five Points, greets everyone by name, shakes hands with laborers and widows alike. On election day, he expects results. Sometimes persuasion is gentle, a reminder of who put food on the table. Other times, it is blunt, a gang standing outside the polling station, making sure votes go the right way. And the tricks multiply. Ballot boxes mysteriously vanish, then reappear stuffed full. Dead men cast votes. Entire wards report turnout higher than their population. Men are paid to vote early, vote often, vote under any name that can be stolen. One witness in the 1850s recalled gangs of men ferried across the East River to vote in multiple districts, fueled with free whiskey between each stop. The machine learned to bend the very bones of democracy. The brilliance and the horror of Tammany was that it did not simply command power from above. It built its empire from below, one desperate family at a time, until the city itself seemed woven into its grasp. And then rose the most infamous of them all, William McGeer Tweed. Known simply as Boss Tweed, he towered over New York politics in the 1860s and 1870s. A hulking figure with piercing eyes, Tweed was both feared and admired. Under his command, Tammany became an empire of corruption. Elections were no longer contests, they were orchestrations. Voters marched to the polls under guard. Ballot counters were bought and paid for. Judges and sheriffs owed their positions to Tweed's generosity. Tweed's greatest theft came through public works. The city built courthouses, roads, schools, projects desperately needed. But the bills were bloated, contracts falsified, costs multiplied 100-fold. The New York County Courthouse alone drained what would be more than $1 billion today. Meanwhile, Tweed lived like a king. Mansions, diamonds, banquets. His cronies stuffed their pockets while the city staggered under debt. And yet, here lies the paradox. For the immigrant in a tenement, Tweed's machine was also salvation. Jobs on city projects, medical care for the sick, a sack of coal when the winter froze the bones. How do you hate the man who feeds your children, even if he robs your city blind? That was Tweed's brilliance, and his curse. But shadows cannot hide forever. The press turned its gaze on Tweed. Investigative journalists uncovered fraud, and one man in particular, the cartoonist Thomas Nast, drew images that spread like wildfire. Nast's drawings of Tweed as a bloated vulture or as a giant with money bags for a body spoke to the illiterate as powerfully as words spoke to the educated. "Stop them damned pictures," Tweed allegedly said. "I don't care what the papers say about me. My constituents can't read, but they can see those pictures." The tide shifted. Protests grew. Courts demanded answers. Tweed was finally arrested, tried, and imprisoned. He escaped once, fled to Spain, but even there he was recognized from Nast's cartoons and captured. He died behind prison walls. But the fall of Boss Tweed was not the end of Tammany. The machine survived, reinvented, reshaped. Leaders like Richard Croker and Charles Murphy carried its methods into the 20th century. It continued to trade favors for votes, to decide elections in smoke-filled rooms, to dominate city politics. Only decades later, through reform, civil service laws, and relentless public pressure, did Tammany Hall's grip finally weaken. By the 1960s, the once mighty machine was reduced to a whisper of what it had been. So what do we make of Tammany Hall? It is easy to condemn, to see it only as corruption incarnate, and it was corrupt beyond question. It stole fortunes, warped elections, and mocked democracy. Yet it also reveals something deeper, that politics is rarely only about ideals. It is about need, about hunger, about who shows up when no one else will. For immigrants abandoned by the system, Tammany was the only government they knew. It was corrupt, yes, but it was also present. That is the warning of Tammany Hall. But when legitimate institutions fail to meet the needs of the people, machines will rise to fill the void. And once they rise, they do not easily let go. Its shadow still stretches across the modern world. Whenever politicians trade favors for loyalty, whenever voter rolls are manipulated, whenever power is secured not by persuasion but by pressure, the ghost of Tammany lingers. This is not just history, it is a mirror. Because democracy is fragile. And vigilance is the only thing that keeps it alive. This was Hidden in History, where shadows still speak. If you found this journey into the hidden past compelling, subscribe to the channel. Join us again as we uncover the stories history tried to bury and bring the whispers of the past back to life.